Now I'm gonna be honest with you guys. Half of the movies on this list aren't bad, just average, so just keep that in mind. 2012 has been a year of bad movies for me. A great majority of the movies I saw this year I liked, so let's get started. Number 10 on my list is Christopher Nolan's latest movie, The Dark Knight Rises. I actually really enjoyed this movie when I saw it in theaters, and this was coming from a person who didn't really even like either Batman Begins or The Dark Knight. But when I watched this movie again on Blu-ray, it disappointed me. First off, Batman is barely in the movie. That's a load of shit. And the movie is way too long and overly complicated. I mean, this is a freaking Batman movie. It doesn't need to be fucking Shakespeare. Game dude line is game dude. While the first half hour or so is great, the rest just goes downhill. Number 9 on my list is the first sequel that's not a prequel in the Paranormal Activity franchise, Paranormal Activity 4. I made a review of this movie stating that I did enjoy it, and I did, until the writers ran out of ideas, so they literally made the majority of the last 30 minutes just switching between cameras, occasionally having a character killed off. It isn't as scary as any of the previous movies, and while it's more enjoyable than Paranormal Activity 2, it's still a bit disappointing. Number 8 on my list is the Norwegian comedy Tina and Bettina the movie. This movie was overall not very disappointing. Everyone said it was horrible, and while I don't think it's as bad as everyone says it is, I still thought it was kind of average. There's not much else to say other than the fact that the movie sometimes pulls off really unfunny jokes and the story is mostly just forgettable. Again, kind of enjoyable, but still not very good. Number 7 on my list is the sequel that no one wanted, Wrath of the Titans. I overall like this movie for what it is, but I can't say it has much to offer. It had some enjoyable 3D when I saw it in theaters, and the action scenes towards the end are interesting, but the movie overall bored me to the point where I was almost sleeping. Not much else to say, but still better than Clash of the Titans. Number 6 on my list is The Tale of Snow White with Lord of the Rings elements. Snow White and the Huntsman. This movie is nothing but a boring-ass fantasy movie that has some cool action scenes and a few likable characters perhaps, but overall just bores and annoys you to so many degrees. The movie made me laugh out loud at some of the terrible writing, and some scenes were just wrong. Number 5 on my list is what may be the biggest movie that came out this year, The Hobbit: An Unexpected Journey. My problem with this movie is that it's way too long compared to the story it's telling. The characters are mostly forgettable, the dialogue is so drawn out for the sole purpose of making the movie longer. This is literally a 3-hour long movie, which is basically just adapted from the first part of a 300-page children's book. And a lot of it just feels so dull. Number 4 on my list is Andrew Stanton's first live-action movie, John Carter. I thought this movie looked stupid when I first saw the trailer, but when I found out that a Pixar director was making it, I went to see it. And it disappointed me very much. I can barely even remember the second half of the movie because it was so incredibly, unbearably boring to watch. The characters are dull, the relationship between the hero and the princess is so uninteresting. The cartoony characters feel out of place for a live-action movie, and it just isn't good at all. Number 3 on my list is the Inception-like movie Looper. This movie is boring as heck. Sure, the story is somewhat interesting, but almost the entire thing takes place on a farm, where it all tells you what happens, but doesn't show you. The main character is nothing but a type of, oh, I'm so tough and I'm in a typical big budget action movie that tries to be artsy character. Overall, there is very little this movie has that appeals to me. Number 2 on my list is the newest James Bond movie, Skyfall 007. I've only seen 2 other Bond movies, Casino Royale 007 and Quantum of Solace 007. None of the old movies so far I've seen. I have to say, while this movie is better than both of those movies, it's still a Bond movie. A Bond movie should be like The Terminator, only not with a robot in it. But that won't happen because everything in the movie industry these days has to be dark, realistic, serious, and epic, quote unquote. It's overall way too long and boring. Number 1 on my list is the new version of Total Recall. I like the original movie with Arnold Schwarzenegger, but unlike this remake, that movie has original special effects, tells this complicated story so well that you can understand it properly, and actually has a sense of humor. Total Recall 2012 has none of that. The effects are colorless and standard for an action movie. The story is pretty much the same as the original movie, but I still didn't understand what the heck was going on. The movie is way too serious and bleak, and that's no good. It's overall an extremely dumb and boring movie. So those were the worst movies of the year through my perspective. Let me know what you think. Sayal.